Hello everybody and welcome to Nathan on Shuffle and to my latest episode of New Music Weekly, the show where I give you guys the top 5 prog news headlines for the week, introduce you guys to some new prog singles, and give you updates on the channel and what's happening here on Nathan on Shuffle. It's October 11th, 2025. There's one giant piece of news that I'm sure many of you have been anticipating me to cover on this episode. I'll get to it very shortly. But first, I like to dive into some of the new releases for the weekend, the new albums that came out this week. There aren't really many that are on my radar. The main ones that I have on my list is Squeaky Feet came out this weekend, their album Overview Effect. This is a jam band of sorts, kind of along similar lines as Umphrey's McGee that I've talked about on the channel, but a cool kind of proggy edge to it, some extended pieces on their albums. They get into kind of jammier sections at times, but their albums are much more specifically composed compared to their live performances where they're willing to go into these extended jam sessions and whatnot. But I found the album quite enjoyable. This is, I believe, their second full-length album after the release of Cause for Alarm a couple years back. So if you liked that one or curious about the jam band scene and how it can meld and mesh with prog rock, it's definitely one to check out. The only other release on my radar is Madison Cunningham and her record Ace, which is definitely not in the prog world necessarily, more in kind of an indie rock style. But she's just a wonderful singer-songwriter that some of my fellow YouTube friends are really into, and I really like her stuff too. Think of like a modern-day Joni Mitchell is kind of my thought about what she sounds like, especially on this release. So just beautiful singing, beautiful piano, and great, well-composed songs. So definitely check that out if you're so inclined. But now let's get into the huge headline news today. Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson announced the Rush 50-something tour. This was huge news all over the internet, all over every music site that I frequent, every YouTube channel that I am a part of. It was fun seeing them all pop up with their each individual takes on this news item. And it's kind of the frustrating thing about being someone whose schedule only really allows me to record on the weekends, because of course this news came out like Monday or Tuesday or something, and I just couldn't talk about it when it initially was released. And I know everyone was like chomping at the bit to put out their video and try to be first at the table to try to talk about this exciting news. But I had to wait patiently for my turn to talk here on this episode about this huge item of news. And I know there's been a bit of controversy from some factions, people wondering if they can really call this Rush without Neil Peart being part of it. It's been that trio for the vast majority, and really that's what people have come to know as Rush, is the trio of musicians, Geddy Lee, Alex Lifeson, Neil Peart. And since Neil Peart has passed away, can it really be called Rush? Is it really authentic Rush? Is it really what Neil Peart would have wanted? You know, all those kind of questions come about. And of course, the big question of who's going to fill the drum seat, the massive vacancy left behind by one of the most notable, celebrated musicians of our time. And so it's a big piece of news, and a lot of discourse has been had on it. And I'm sure my response is pretty predictable, but I'm just thrilled that this is happening. Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson have every right to put together Rush in their own way and come out on tour. If they want to play Rush music, like who are we to stop them from being able to do that? And millions of fans are going to be thrilled and excited to attend these shows and be able to see them in action. So I just don't see any sort of downside. You could quibble, should they have called this tour something else, not call it Rush proper, but if you're Rush, if you're 2/3 of Rush even, you've got to use that branding and that band name. That's what brings people to the table, and I don't see any issue with it or any problem. And they are very respectful in their announcement of this and talking about the legacy and about just wanting to be back on the road and how they're going to celebrate the legacy of Neil Peart on this tour. Everything seems perfectly just in line with what they should be doing, and very respectful of the band name and of their past member. And it seems like they got, the approval from some of the family members of Neil Peart and all of that. So, excitement is my main takeaway. I'm just really excited for this to happen. I'm debating if I'm going to try to attempt to get a ticket to one of the shows. It seems like they're playing here in LA 4 dates, it seems. They've initially announced 2 dates on the 7th and 9th of June next year, but then they added June 11th and June 13th as well. So it gives me 4 possible options, but I know from just hearing in the grapevine that it's just going to get massively sold out probably right at the beginning, and it's probably going to be super expensive for tickets. So, and I have to debate, do I go with my wife? Do I go with my dad? So there's a lot of question marks, and I'm not the biggest fan of going into LA for concerts anyways. So whether I go or not, but of course it's such a monumental event that part of me is maybe I should make every effort to try to make this monumental tour. I've never seen Rush live in concert. I've never really had the opportunity. I became a fan of theirs pretty much after they were done touring, after Neil Peart passed away. So this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, so I may be looking into it, but I better be deciding that quickly and trying to jump on tickets as soon as they pop open available. So, but they're playing in a lot of different areas. They're playing in Mexico City, in Texas, Fort Worth here, Chicago, Madison Square Garden, of course, also in Toronto and Cleveland. So a few dates in the U.S. and Canada. It'll be interesting to see if it expands out beyond that, or if they just kind of keep it to those dates. It'll be interesting to see if they make a concert video film out of this, some kind of Blu-ray release. I wouldn't be surprised of this performance, so that people who aren't able to attend these shows can see it later on. So that would be exciting as well. And of course, the other news alongside this is the drummer that they're bringing on board. That's someone I was not at all familiar with, but people are pretty excited about, and who've seen her perform think that she's going to be great on the show, and definitely one of the premier drummers in the scene right now. So her name is Anika Niles, and I think it's kind of fun to see a new personality interact with the band and see kind of her takes on Neil Peart's parts. It's going to be a tricky balance of trying to pay homage to Neil Peart and not deviate too far from his drum parts, but also adding her own personality, because I think that's a great thing that she can be doing as well. So I'm just really interested to see where this develops and how this goes, and I'm very much a fan of people continuing touring if they want to, these legacy artists. There's a lot of discourse about when should a band call it quits, and if a band doesn't have all of its original members anymore, can they really call themselves that band? But I'm just happy when bands get to continue forward and play the music that they love, that we love, and that it still gets to live and exist, and doesn't just die away in the past. This is a living catalog of music that I think deserves to be played in this capacity. And, who wouldn't want to see, Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson, perform as much as possible before they eventually retire and aren't playing live anymore. So I think it's only good news, and I'm really excited about it and grateful that this is happening, and hope that everyone else out there can share in this excitement, and that it'll be a fun time for all to celebrate Rush and, this news and everything that's happening in their world and camp. Some of the other quick hit news items beyond that one that I'll race through a little bit more quickly. Nick D'Virgilio shares Fly on a Windshield / Broadway melody of 1974 with Steve Hackett. There's a single out there, a video on YouTube as well in my Prog singles list. This is from the upcoming Rewiring Genesis, a tribute to the Lamb Lies Down on Broadway release, which is coming out November 28th, 2025. This was originally released back in 2008. It's an album that's near and dear to my heart. I'm a big fan of Nick D'Virgilio, of course, and a big fan of this seminal classic Genesis record. And I saw him perform it live here in the LA area, so that was really fun. And it seems like they're sprucing the release up a bit, adding some horns, re-recording things. This track in particular adds Steve Hackett on guitar, which is great since, of course, he originally played on the original Lamb. So it seems like it's going to be a fun, spruced up release of this Rewiring Genesis record. So I'm excited to listen and see what that's like in today's day and age. It's going to be available as a 2 LP gatefold sleeve, 2 CD, and a Bandcamp download is how that's being released. We also got another music video from Echolyn. They recently released a snippet, a piece of one of their epics from their latest record, TimeSilentRadio. This time it's one of the shorter tracks on TimeSilentRadio 7 called On We Blur. So if you want to see a live rendition of that, their music video of sorts, they're an excellent prog band. This is kind of a must-listen album, in my opinion, of this year. Came out earlier this year, officially in March, I believe, March 7th. 2 records from the band at once, TimeSilentRadio 7 and TimeSilentRadio 2. And both excellent, wonderful records in their classic prog tradition. So On We Blur is a great track, so definitely check out their video of it. And if you haven't ordered their record, I would strongly recommend it. It's going to be in my top 16 tournament, certainly, at the end of the year. Dream Theater, they canceled some of their plans to tour in UK and Europe in 2026. So they're going to close out their Parasomnia tour, it seems, with the rest of their US dates that they have throughout the rest of this year. So kind of unfortunate for the UK fans who are looking forward to some cool Parasomnia played live in their hometown. But they plan to come in those areas, of course, on their next round of touring, which they anticipate to be 2027 or beyond somewhere. So, just kind of unfortunate. The band has mentioned it has nothing to do with, there's no bad blood in the band, or they're not breaking up or anything. They're actually as strong as they've ever been together as a collective. But it's just their plans are kind of morphing and changing, and they've got a lot on their plate to kind of figure out. I'm sure they're looking towards recording new music in the studio sometime next year would be my guess. And then they'll do another round of touring once that release comes out in the future. So they're kind of a machine to keep this touring and album release cycle moving. I think that's kind of why Mike Portnoy left the group previously, that he was kind of burnt out by this cycle. But we're back on it. They're very reliable with their cycle of touring and live and recording studio albums, and we'll see how that all comes together in the future. But just thought I'd mention that for those who might have been looking forward to their Europe and UK dates coming out in the future for next year. It just doesn't seem like that's going to happen. So, but they did do 2 European legs of their 40th anniversary tour, so they've been playing very recently. So it's not like people haven't had the opportunity to catch them live. They're just not touring this particular tour in those areas, it seems. But they're coming out with a live release soon through Inside Out Music on November 28th on vinyl, Blu-ray, and CD. Their live performance in Paris from this 40th anniversary tour. So you can check out their live album coming soon. Also, TesseracT announced a new concert movie and live album called Radar. This is a UK prog metal act, one of the big names in the newer scene. This film Radar and the soundtrack will be released through Kscope on December 5th. The film and album were recorded during the band's celebrated headline performance at the UK's Modern Prog Festival Radar in Manchester in 2024. Really cool new release from a seminal prog metal band in the current scene, so I'm looking forward to that release and thought it would be worth mentioning. I did want to mention quickly, I try not to focus too much on people passing away and the sadness of that. It's not really something I want to highly focus on, but I thought I should mention that Moody Blues bassist and vocalist John Lodge has passed away at age 82. Been with the Moody Blues for more than 50 years. He's one of their key members, of course. So it's a big piece of news in progressive and music circles at large. So I wanted to mention it. Of course, my thoughts are with the family members and everyone who is grieving at this time over this. Also passed away Arion contributor and former kayak singer Edward Reekers, who passed away at age 68. Arian Lucasen came out with a statement about how difficult it is that his friend is gone. So that is also very sad news as well. So I wanted to mention those items for some of the musicians who've passed away recently. And finally, Pineapple Thief announced a 20th anniversary vinyl reissue of their fourth album, 10 Stories Down. This is coming out on colored vinyl in October to celebrate the album's 20th anniversary. As I mentioned, originally released in 2005. Should be a cool release through Kscope, coming out October 31st on apricot and black marble vinyl. Audio was remastered in 2023 by Steve Kitch at Steve Kitch Remastering Studios. So if you're interested in Pineapple Thief and Bruce Sword and his contributions, that'll be a cool album to check out, a cool new reissue. So those are the items. As for my singles list, I mentioned the Echolyn track, On We Blur, as well as the Rewiring Genesis track, Fly on a Windshield / Broadway Melody of 1974. I'm also adding Jonas Lindberg and the Other Side's new track called Groovin'. This is a Swedish prog rock outfit coming out with a new album called Time Frames in November 7th. I'm going to be talking about it on the channel. I love the record. I've heard an advance copy, and I'm excited to talk about it. Right up my lane. Think about all the people that I love, the Flower Kings, Neil Moore's, Spock's Beard. It's right in that camp. And this is a wonderful instrumental from the record that has a really cool groove to it, and is just a lot of fun to listen to. So definitely check out that track, and look forward to the release of the album coming up in November. So that's what we've got for you today. Some really cool news items. Of course, the big headline Rush news that I wanted to comment on a little bit longer than I typically would on a news item, but I thought it was well warranted. As for the channel itself, I admit that it's been a little bit quiet lately, and it's going to continue to probably be a little bit quiet. I'm kind of rethinking things a little bit, and I'm very busy in other facets of my life, so I'm trying to find a good balance and be able to put out enough videos to keep this channel alive, but not to overwhelm myself with too much. So hopefully you guys don't mind me kind of rebalancing things just a slight bit as I kind of think about my own schedule and how I want to continue forward with this stuff. But I plan to continue forward with the weekly news items like I do. And I love the monthly roundups of new albums that I recommend. I'm going to continue that tradition for sure. And then it'll just be sporadic other videos as I see fit, if I'm inspired to talk about an album in a little bit more depth, or if I want to do some kind of ranking or countdown or something. I will do that in my discretion as I'm inspired to do so. So let me know in the comments if you ever have any suggestions or things that you think would be cool to see on the channel. I'm always open to ideas, and just thought it would be cool to open that up to you guys. Lately on the channel, I did a September review roundup a couple weeks ago now. If you're interested in some new album recommendations, that's a great place to look. We did a prog song shuffle, me and Jana, this last Sunday for Emerson, Lake and Palmer's Knife Edge, which we really enjoyed. Probably taking a break from it this week, but hopefully we'll have something for you in the following week is kind of our plan. I also did a roundup quarterly review with some of my fellow YouTuber friends. That came out. We did it in a, tried out the new collaborative feature on YouTube, so hopefully you saw it pop up on my channel, but it's mainly hosted on Notes Reviews channel, just talking about the best and worst, I suppose, but mostly the best music of the last quarter in the world of progressive rock and related genres. There's some metal, some indie kind of rock, some pop stuff. It runs the gamut to a lot of cool different styles of music, but with somewhat of a prog leaning focus. So if you're interested in some recommendations, that's a great place for it. I had my notepad out and was writing down some releases that my friends were talking about. So always a joy. And so hopefully some cool stuff coming up on the channel. I've been wanting to do an episode about The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway to celebrate the latest big deluxe edition that has come out that I've been listening to, but not sure when I'm going to have the time to record that yet, but it's something I'm thinking over. There's some new reviews that will be coming later this month, as well, of course, my October roundup, and some videos with Jana. I'm thinking to try to convince Jana to do a Rush-centric episode soon to kind of coincide with this Rush concert news, so see if that comes to fruition. So thank you guys for joining me. Hopefully you appreciated this episode and are having fun out there listening to whatever music you're enjoying. Let me know in the comments any albums that I may have missed that have come out recently that you've been digging. Love when people do that. It gives me some new recommendations to check out, and that's always fun. And beyond that, I'm just grateful for your support and continuing to watch my channel. It's really well appreciated, and hopefully you guys are having fun. So thank you guys, and enjoy the music, everybody. Bye.